Haley Smith, you dirty girl.
It's about books, duh.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Paige, and today we are talking about the 7 books that I read in the month of September. I'm literally trying to think of what month I'm talking about. I apologize for the lighting and if I look like I'm in the witness protection program, but I really wanted to film this video and get this out to you guys because I have been dying to talk about some of these books. We had a lot of good ones in September. We also had a lot of like meh books. So let's get into it. So the first book that I finished in the month of September was actually an audiobook, and that was Funny Feelings by Tara DeWitt. I have never read anything by this author, but there are a lot of her books that are on my TBR because people I follow on Instagram like love them. So I am curious to read more of her books. However, I was looking for like a good fall audio book, something easy. This is a contemporary romance about a female comedian and her boss-ish. He's also a comedian, but he's also a single dad. And his daughter is deaf. So there's that kind of representation in the book. And it's a very much friends to lovers romance. It's a little forbidden because of the boss. He's kind of like her agent and she's the comedian, that kind of relationship. But overall, I thought it was like a good read. I gave it 3.5 stars. It wasn't life-altering. It wasn't life-changing. It was just fine. It was very cute. I did enjoy the writing and I thought that the banter was very good. Obviously, it was funny because they're both comedians. So if it wasn't funny, that would be a huge problem. But I didn't have any strong feelings about it. Despite that, I will be reading more of her books because, again, I've seen very good things about them and like people have said a lot of good things about them. So it was fine. Good way to start off the month of September. Now, the next book that I finished in the month of September was Keeping 13. I did it. I finally did it. I'm really proud of myself. So I actually ended up listening to this book mostly. I did attempt to start reading it, and I found that it was a lot harder for me to get through than Binding 13. And as you know, like, this is the indie version and the words are really, really small, and it is a 700-page book. So it picks up where Binding 13 leaves off, and I don't want to give like anything away about the plot because if you haven't read Binding 13, the way that this book starts will give this away. But all you really need to know is that Shannon's family is really messed up. There's a lot of abuse, there's substance abuse, there's physical abuse, and Johnny comes from a very, very wealthy family, and of course, this is their love story. Binding 13 was like kind of all about them falling in love as high schoolers. Like, remember, this is a new adult book, so the dialogue is definitely giving high school. I personally love the surrounding characters to Shannon and Johnny. I think they make the book. I think you really need them. But overall, this was a slog. This was a slog. I don't know why this book was written and why it was so long. I love these characters, don't get me wrong. But first of all, the audiobook is so poorly done. I simply listened to it because I needed to get it through it and I needed to finish it and I just needed this to be over. But this audiobook is so bad. The whole book is literally, does he like me? He likes me. Does she like me? It is truly like, am I reading the same paragraph over and over again for 700 pages? Yes. Of course, there's an underlying storyline of Shannon's family and all of that. And of course, the ending, like, it is heartfelt. There's so much emotion in this book because of the characters and what they've gone through. But it really fell flat. I'm so disappointed because Binding 13 was a 5-star read for me. I freaking ate that up. This was not it. I think I rated it 3 stars. Generously, probably just because of like the last 100 pages. But I will say that I'm glad that I finally read it and that it's done. It's over. We're done with this duet. I will not be reading any of the other ones at all or in the near future. Okay, the next book that I finished in the month of September was another audiobook, and I had this on hold for quite a while, but it finally came through, and that is Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. So I talked about this a little bit in my vlog, but I'm a glutton for punishment. I continue to read Riley Sager books, despite the fact that most of the newer ones I have not enjoyed. I thought Survive the Night was not it. The House Across the Lake, I liked that a little bit more. The Only One Left? No. Loved The House. Oh gosh, what is that one called? Something about the dark. Home After Dark? I'm not sure. When this new Riley Sager book came out, I was like, well, everyone's reading it. I want to read it. I want to be involved in this conversation. So I listened to it. I believe I rated this 3.5 stars. It was, again, a little bit of a slog. I found most of the book so slow and it was a little bit of drudgery. Like, the mystery element of it was enough to keep me intrigued and wanting to know how it ended, but I felt even the ending, I was like, all right, like, that's what happened. Like, I don't know. It lacked that tension for me that I would expect from a Riley Sager thriller. I would not classify this as thriller at all. I would classify this story as a mystery. It follows Riley Sager's first male protagonist, and he comes home to live in his parents' house, and he starts getting like weird signs from his old best friend who was kidnapped and murdered in his backyard when he was like 10 years old. And I get so disappointed because I feel like Riley Sager books, there's always like a near supernatural element, and then it ends up being something like really benign, and I'm just like, but I want spooky ghosts. Like, why couldn't this be a spooky ghost? Is it worth reading? Sure. It's not bad. Did I love it? No, absolutely not. But, you know, it is what it is. But the next book, as you know, I got my book of the month box for September, and I included a couple of books. One of those books was Phantasma. There's crack in here. This was so good. I am actually speechless. So this is like a traveling haunted house where if you enter into this competition where you have to survive the 9 levels of this haunted house challenge, you win whatever you want. So this is set in like New Orleans. It's like old timey because there's like horses and carriages. I don't know what year it would be, but it follows Ophelia and her sister, Genevieve. I think it's Genevieve. Ophelia enters Phantasma, which is the haunted house's name, in the competition. And she is determined to get to level 6, because level 6 is when you can like go out into the haunted house and look around, and she wants to see if she can find her sister. But you have to get through the first 6 levels. So she enlists the help of a phantom named Blackwell. And phantoms can do a lot of things because they're kind of like ghosts. And he helps her get through these challenges. So the challenges are so great, and I loved that aspect of this book. I thought it was so fun and each level is based off the 9 levels of hell, which is just like, it's so good. And it's like the Hunger Games where like every contestant is kind of trying to kill each other because they all want to win. And there can only be one winner at the end. So only one person really is meant to survive. And you either die or you forfeit. So that aspect of it was so much fun to read. And the romance, of course, that blossoms between Blackwell and Ophelia is great. It's a little insta-lovey, I will say that, but some of the scenes, you'll understand when you read this. Highly recommend this book. And the ending, Kaylee Smith, you dirty girl. Yeah, the ending was really, really good. And there will be a second book, Enchantra, which follows another character from Phantasma. I won't say who because I'm not going to spoil it for you. So I will be buying the second one for sure. These are on Kindle Unlimited. This is on Kindle Unlimited and the second one will be. This was just so much fun. There's literally like a spicy scene with like a cloud that rains blood. There are spooky ass things. There are possessions. There are spiders. There are things trying to kill you all the time. And it is a wild, wild ride. So if you're looking for like haunted house with romance and trials, please pick this up. So Phantasma was a 5-star read. I had another read that was nearly 5 stars. I rated it 4.5 stars, and that is Nocticadia by Carrie Lake. This was so good, dude. Oh my God. Nocticadia, this had everything I loved. It was a spooky setting on an island. It was a campus, dark academia, professor, student, but not in a creepy way. And just gross at times. Very, very spicy. And it was just great. It was honestly so good. So Nocticadia follows the FMC who kind of is like down on her luck and struggling, and she is kind of from a poor area, and all of a sudden she gets this letter of acceptance to this university, Dracadia, and gets invited there. And she is determined to go to this university because she wants to know what happened to her mother. And what this university specializes in is studying these worms that killed her mom. So she's like, yes, I'm going to go here. I'm going to study these worms. I'm going to find out what happened because this is not okay. That's where she meets Bramwell, Professor Bramwell. And at first he's like very, very icy to her. And this is definitely like a slow burn romance. It is fantastic. But things happen and things kind of evolve, and he starts noticing her and feeling like really protective of her. And she is like, well, if you want to help me so bad, let me study in your lab, because he is like the expert on the worms. And he's like, no one gets to come in my lab. And does she get to come in his lab? Of course she does. Of course she does. Do they do dirty, dirty things in his lab? 100%. Did I love every minute of it? Yes, I loved it. He was so protective of her. I ate it up. It was so good. And the plot, so like the beginning gets you like right away, and then the middle part is kind of like a lot of the spice and the romance. And then the last 25%, my eyes were glued to my Kindle. Glued. I was like, what is going to happen? The plot is so, so strong in this book. And there's honestly like, obviously the plot with the FMC's mom, but also kind of another plot with Bramwell. Oh my God, I'm getting them confused because the Phantom from Phantasma is Blackwell and the professor is Bramwell. It's so confusing for my ADHD brain. It's all the same. I really, really enjoyed this book, and I will definitely be reading more from Carrie Lake. As I said in my October TBR video, I would love to read Anathema. I found out it's not Anathema, it's Anathema. So Carrie Lake, you are a genius. I loved it. So I actually picked up another book on Kindle Unlimited this month, and that was Blood Orange. I don't remember the author's name, but I will put it here. Blood Orange was a very impulsive download based on another YouTuber's recommendation. And this is a vampire romance with a girl who is this vampire's reincarnated lover. Very, very spice heavy. Did I love it? No, but it was very, very entertaining. I just thought the ending, so I was expecting like a really good ending because this YouTuber I watch, she was like, oh my God, the ending's gonna have you gagged. You're gonna love it. And I was like, sweet, I'm gonna read this just for that. It got to the end and I was like, bro. So not a lot of thoughts on this book. Like, it was fine. If you're looking for something with vampires that's like really, really easy to read and there's a shitload of spice, please pick up Blood Orange. If you're looking for something with more plot, look elsewhere. Okay, finally, the last book that I read in the month of September was Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. I have not read anything by this author, but this was a very, very bingeable book for me. I read this in 24 hours. So it is written from the perspective of an 8-year-old girl, and they kind of use a unique style where there's no quotation marks, but everything's like so heavily spaced and indented. It reads so quick, and it's only 350 pages. This is about a girl who starts getting kind of like possessed and haunted by this spirit that she calls Other Mommy. And she starts off very, very innocent, but quickly turns very sinister. And it reminded me a lot of that movie about the people who were like being stalked in their house, and they kept having to move because these people were like desperately trying to get away from the spirit, but because it was haunting the little girl, wherever the little girl goes, the spirit will follow. And the spirit is mad. And all she wants to do is possess this little girl and get into her heart. She keeps asking her, "Can I go into your heart?" And it's so fucking creepy and good. I was expecting this to be scarier. That was a little bit disappointing. It wasn't as scary as I was hoping for, but super entertaining. I loved the writing. I thought it was a really good story. And the more that the family devolved into arguing about what to do and like falling apart, the worse that the spirit got, which is kind of an interesting commentary on like parents being strong for their kids and kind of like keeping it together to keep the family together. So if you haven't read this and you're looking for something very, very creepy and weird and kind of gross at times, this is a really, really good option for you. Okay, so that is all for the month of September. I read 3 books that were over 500 pages, so go me, in the first month of school, so I'm super proud of myself for that. I finally got Keeping 13 off my TBR, and I had a lot of fun in these really cool, interesting worlds, so I'm really looking forward to continuing my reading in these like spooky kind of genres and to continue on my quest to finish my October TBR. I'm doing well so far. I did not get to a lot of the books that I wanted to read. Daydream, did not get to that. Did not get to reread You Again, and I did not get to All the Colors of the Dark, so I did okay on my TBR, but those books will always be there. If I want to read them, they're there. And if I don't, they're still there, and they're going to be there maybe for me, maybe for someone else, who knows. But if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time. Bye.